Morning, everyone. So we'll wait for a couple of more minutes for people to join and then we'll get started. All right, I'm going to share my screen. So one of the major feature that we rolled out was the custom review points. So when you click on settings or even before that, those of you guys were kind of using it. The review points were only available at the client level, meaning if you had the same review point that you wanted to add to multiple clients at the same time, you did not have a way but to just get into every single client and create them individually. But with this feature, what we did was when you click on settings, we introduced this new setting called cleanup mode setting, where you should be able to create custom review points here, and then you should be able to push it to or kind of export it to all the clients on one click. So it's very simple. So here when you click on clean up more settings, you click on add. These are different parameters using which you should be able to create the template. Now there are few things that are different here. Number one is, let's say if I select a name, right? If you are in client and when you select this parameter for name, you would see typically a list of all of your vendors or customers into that. But because now we are at the firm level, we cannot really show vendors or customers from every single client, right? So what we are doing here is we go by the keywords. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's say I wanted to create a new review point that will help me find any transactions in fixed assets that is less than $1,000. Now in this case, here is what I would do. Now, like what I would do, just a second, click on add. Let's say if I select GL, and then I would say that, hey, I wanted to select all my fixed asset account, right? But then I don't want accumulated depreciation. So I might just write a keyword here, right? I cannot show the account name because as I told you, the accounts are created in client, but we are at the firm level. So this whole thing is driven by the keywords. Okay. The another example could be that, let's say I wanted to find any transactions in office expenses or repairs or supplies that is more than $2,000. Same thing, all I could do, I can click on add, and then I would click on GL, and then I would say that, hey, I wanted to pull up all my expenses first, but then out of expenses I only want this keywords, this account. So I'm going to say supplies. I will use comma to differentiate different keywords. So I would say repairs, I would say office, I would say whatever other, right? So what it will basically do is that whenever you push or whenever you export this review point, which I'm going to show you to individual client, it's gonna first look for all the expenses accounts, and then it's gonna find all the accounts with these keywords like supplies, repairs, and office, and then it will map it accordingly, right? So this is how it will be done. Okay, so once you add this template, what you could do, you can click on add to client file. So now you have list of all the review points that are available at your firm level. Let's say I wanted to have this one and this one and this one and this one to be added to all my clients. I can select them first. I can then click on next, and then I can select the clients in which I want to add them to, right? So if I wanted to select all of them, I can select all of them and then just click on add. So what this will do is that whatever review points that I have selected will be added to these clients, right? So this is how you should be able to create the template at the firm level and then eventually be exported or added to your client's level. All right. So that was a new addition that we did. Now on this screen itself, we did introduce one more feature. It's called mark as default. So what this will do is that now you have default review points that come automatically by Xenett, and then these are the ones that you can create for yourself, like whatever matters to you, right, at your firm level. Now, what you can do is that if you select this checkbox, right, every single client that you add moving forward will be added with this selected review points, right? So the way it helps, see, previously we did not have these options, right? So like what it will do, it will actually create or add all these review points even when you don't want them, right? So what you had to do at that point was you had to go to that client settings and then enable and disable review points. But now, because now we are at the firm level, you decide that, hey, let's say for all my clients, I don't really care about this review list, or I don't really care about these aged payables. So what it will do, and you can do the same thing here with the custom review points as well. Whatever review points are selected as default, all the new clients that you add moving forward will be having this review points set as default, right? So that's also another thing, another feature that we have done. There is a new improvement that we also did, was that a lot of you have requested this, is that see, um, it's like if you go to QuickBooks, say, and if the transactions are edited from Xenett, there is no way as such from QuickBooks to tell whether this transaction who like edited by Xenett or QuickBooks, right? So what we are doing here is that if you type in a keyword, let's say if you type in a keyword called Zen, so whatever edit that are done through Xenett, what we are now going to be doing is that whatever keyword that was mentioned, it will actually add to this memo, right? So that way, if you are looking at any transactions in QuickBooks, and if you see this keyword, that will tell you that, hey, this transactions was coming or did come from Xenett, right? So it's more of a edit, like I would say identification code. So whatever you write will be mentioned there into uh, your QuickBooks file. So that was the main thing here. All right, now let me go back to, we actually made some changes or improvements with the cleanup mode. Number one is that we introduced these suggestions here, right? So what we guys are like, what we are doing here is that, see, in this case right now there are few transactions of Amazon in uncategorized. Now in the back end, we kind of create some sort of configuration for each vendor. Now in this case, we notice that in case of Amazon, all the previous transactions were coded to office supplies. So we are just giving you a hint or suggestions here that, hey, in the past, based on the history, it looks like it should go to office supplies. So it just helps you find, I mean, it just helps you make the decision that whether you want to select this account or not. Now, in this case, let's say if I think that, like, hey, no, this makes sense to me, I can just select it and then save it, right? So at least now you don't have to go and pull the history and then find out what account it went to. So this is how we just kind of started giving you suggestions wherever we believe that, hey, this is the account that these particular transactions should go to, right? So that was uh, suggestions feature that we introduced here on uncategorized entries and also with the entries without class as well, right? Now we actually introduced this GL consistency review and class consistency review as well, right? So we actually revamped. We used to call this like a review expenses, but we completely revamped it, right? So what we did here is that we like imagine there are, let's say in this case, let's say there are 68 vendors. I don't need to worry about all the 68 vendors whether they are correctly coded or not. So what we are doing is that we are just segregating them. Like out of the 68, 50 are already matching, so I don't even have to worry about it. Now, what do I mean by match? Is that we create some sort of configuration in the backend, which means that the whenever you add any client, we look for consistency, right? So if we notice that Uber was always coded to travel, we automatically create some sort of configuration in the backend, and it will now start expecting all the Uber transactions to travel account in the future, right? So that sort of configuration that we are creating. Now, whenever that configuration is matching with the actual data, it's gonna turn that row into green. So what this means, I don't even have to worry about this 50 such vendors because it's all good, right? So this is Uber travel, that's okay. So the only time I need to worry about is when something is inconsistent. So in this case, same CPA. I was expecting, so if you put your mouse on that, you would know that it was expecting accounting fees, but someone coded it to the different account called legal and professional services. So now I only need to worry about the ones that are inconsistent. Okay. Now there could be two situations. If this account was wrong, then you want to reclassify these transactions from legal and professional services to accounting fees. So we have even made it simple. You just have to click on reclassify entries, just click on accounting fees, right? And then just click on reclassify. So whatever transactions were coded to legal and professional services will now be reclassified to accounting fees account, right? So that is how easy it is to reclassify transactions that were miscoded. Now the another situation could be like you could say that no, this is also a correct account, like you want to get rid of this flag. Now in this case, if you put your mouse on that, you see add config. When you click on that, it will actually add this account to configuration also, which means in the future, if transactions are coded to this account, it will not be flagged by Xenett. So if you want to look at those configuration, how it's done and what are the accounts configuration, each vendor you will see this add manage config. When you click on that, you will notice that hey, this is the account that is set as configure. Like as you can see, select the expected accounts, like it says accounting fee. So this is a configuration that is getting saved, right? So every month I come here, all I should care about is okay, what are the vendors with inconsistency and what are the new ones. New ones is because this gives you an opportunity to quickly see excuse me, this gives you an opportunity to quickly see what are the new vendors and how it's coded. So if this was like if this were miscoded, then you can fix it. So this is how I mean I can quickly see the new vendors and I can quickly check how they are coded. And if I need to make some changes with the configuration, I can always do that real quick, right? So that way this GL consistency review has been remembered. And I can also pull up, like let's say if I wanted to quickly pull up the vendors that are going to multiple accounts, I can just click on it and I can just quickly pull up all those vendors which are going to multiple accounts. So that is also very handy. So that is a GL consistency review that we actually revamped. Now based on this concept, we actually also introduced another review point, that is class consistency review, right? It works exactly the same way, same logic, right? This review point was not there before. And by the way, this is also conditional, meaning if at all you have class enable in your QuickBooks, then and then this will show up, right? So that's a new addition in cleanup mode. With the close mode, some small improvements that we did. Number one is that we actually have this little icon here that basically collapse all the folders and then expand all the folders. That was a quick thing. Second thing that we did was those of you who use GL rack can now see the last reconcile entry when you put your mouse on like any of the bank or credit card account, right? So you don't need to go to anywhere, just put your mouse on any of the bank account or credit card account and it will show you what is the last reconcile entry, right? So that's that. All right, and then we made some changes with the to do as well. Those of you who used to do module previously, it was not possible to assign multiple people. So now you can assign the task to multiple people as well. uh, we also added a new filter for folder and status. So if you just wanted to see a task for any specific folder or task with any specific status, then these two new filters have also been added as well. Okay. There is a way, the sorting was not available before, so now that's possible too. So that was another little improvement that we did. Okay. Another improvement that we did, we introduced this action column here. So in order for you to delete the client, previously you have to go to the client, click on setting icon, click on client info. It was little lengthy process. So now we have this action button where like we just kind of click here and then click on delete client, and then the client file will be deleted. Okay. Same way assign client as well. So let's say, for example, this particular client, I wanted to assign it to anyone in my company. Then I can click on these three dots, click on assign users, and then I can select the users and I can easily assign the client as well. Okay. Now, there are few things, few improvements that we also did while adding the client. So this is what used to happen. Previously, you had to first of all add the client, and then you have to assign users separately. So that used to be a second step. But now, while you are adding the client, you will have an option to assign the users at this point itself. So while I'm adding the QuickBooks file, I can decide that, hey, I also wanted to assign to my colleague, and then I can do that. So that way I don't need to take that action separately. Okay. Another thing that we did was other, right? So this was requested by some of you where, let's say I was onboarding a new client. I do not have access for QuickBooks or Zero at this point. So what I would do, I would just create them as first as other. Then I would use client portal to gain access to QuickBooks and Zero. And then once I get the QuickBooks and Zero access, I would then connect this other client to that QuickBooks and Zero. So what I mean to say is that previously, when you had created a client as other, there wasn't a way where you could actually connect your accounting software afterwards, right? But now we have made it possible that even if the client was created as other, and then if you wanted to connect the QuickBooks or Zero afterwards, you should be able to do that. Okay, so just a second, click on settings, then click on client info, and then you should be able to connect QuickBooks or Zero from here, right? So that was another thing that we did. All right. Another thing that we did was this on settings billing information. So some people say that they actually used a generic login to sign up for Xenett. Like, let's say some use like apps at xyz.com or logins at xyz.com. So even the invoice copy used to get sent to those emails. So what they requested was that they wanted to get the invoice copy to some other address as well. So while you are adding the credit card information, we have introduced this secondary email where if you type in, so obviously you will be getting the invoice copy to your default practice super admin email address, but whatever other email address that you typed in here, you will also be receiving the invoice copy to that email as well, right? So that's how you can do it. For already existing clients, you just have to just use this add card information and just update this secondary email and save it, and that is it, right? So you'll start receiving the invoice copy on that email as well. Okay, so that's another thing that we had added. One more little thing that we did was in manage users. Previously, when you add a new user, okay, we did not have this option called user role. So this is what used to happen. I would first have to add the email address and name and then click on invite. Then I'll have to wait for that user to accept the invitation, meaning to create and register his Xenett account. and then I'll be able to set him up as admin. So I'll have to wait until he accept. But now, even when you are creating the user, you should be able to decide whether you want to invite as an admin or staff. While we are here, previously, if you wanted to assign any clients to any of the users, you had to go to that user and then you just click on here and then not because this has been okay here and then click on edit and then you have to assign it from here. But now we introduce this assign client file. So let's take an example. I have, let's say, one client that I want to assign it to three people, three users. So I'll have to edit them individually like this, and then I'll have to click here and then save it, right? Now we have introduced this assign client file where on left you have all the clients. Let's say I have this client and this client and this client, and then all of those three clients I want to assign to this user. I mean, in this case there is just one user, but imagine if there were multiple users. So on left I can select the clients, on right I can select the users, and on one click I can just quickly finish the assignment of client. So that was again a small improvement that we did with the assign client file features. Okay, so that was that. All right, so that is done. Close done. To do done. Cleanup mode done. All right, now I'm going to talk about some of the major changes that we just rolled out in our last release, which is for client portal. So, if I go to my Royal, so we actually revamped the whole client portal. Let's just talk about that. So, on the questions module, previously we used to show six tabs on the top, right? But now we just segregated all of the questions into two main tabs, which is questions for client and request by client. So on questions for client, I can now know, okay, these are the ones open means these are the ones that I'm still waiting on my client to answer. These are the ones that are responded, and these are the ones that are resolved. So again, there is nothing like a change in the workflow as such. It's mainly the change in the design, right? The another change that we did was we used to show transactional questions and non-transactional questions on the same screen. Like we used to show the whole table, and then it was just kind of complicating the design in the page. So what we did was that rather than showing the table on the same page, we just converted into a pop-up experience. So now I can see all my 18 questions here, and then for each transactional questions, I can click on it and I can look at all the. So I can now at least have a full screen view to see all my transactions. Okay, so that way, that was one change that we did in terms of the display. So with the client portal, we actually also introduced excuse me, the notes, right? So when you click on settings and then when you click on client portal, by the way, we also change the layout here. We used to have three tabs here, like invite users, notification preferences, and then the general settings. So three tabs. So we just kind of created a small blocks for each of them and then just put the whole settings here, right? So we introduced this new setting called note for client user dashboard, right? So in this case, whatever we write will show up on client user dashboard. Okay, so that was a new improvement that we did. Now let's just talk about, or let me just take you to what client users is seeing. So if I take you there, all right, so this is what client's gonna see. Now this is a screen that will generally show up if your client owns multiple companies, right? So if I have been if I own, let's say, as a client user, if I have more businesses, then this becomes a dashboard for me that will tell me like what is what, like what it's a status by each client. So am I roles, I have questions for me, my request, similarly here, right? If I just have one company, I'm not going to see this screen. I will directly land into that particular client. So on clients end, we did actually introduce obviously we actually changed the design and everything. uh, so we introduced this dashboard where right now we just have these three information, but eventually as we add more features to client portal, we will be populating more information on this dashboard. So I know as a client there are three questions for me, which means I have to answer. The notes that I was just showing it to you, whatever accountant has published will actually show up here. So you could actually write any notes here. You can put the image, URL, links, whatever, right? And then when I click here, questions for me, I can now see all the questions that I need to respond. I think I kind of already responded. So, okay. Okay, there are three of them. So I can now see all the ones that are responded. So as a client user, I have a pretty much I would say clear view that from my accountant I have three questions to answer. So I can see two respond, and as I respond, all my questions will then move to responded tab. So it's very simple view for client. Now in this case, my request is something where, and again this my request is conditional. So as an accountant user, you would have an option to enable whether you want your client to ask questions back to you or not. So if you guys have not enabled that, and let me just quickly show you. So if you look at it, allow client user to ask questions. So if you have not this enable, then that tab will not even show up, right? So wherever that feature is enabled, that's when your client users will see my request, and under that they can see, okay, what are the ones unresolved and what are the resolved ones, right? And they should be able to ask questions easily from here. Okay, so these are the some of the major changes that we did with the client portal. There are other features which are in pipeline which are coming up, but in our latest release we just kind of released these major changes with the client portal. Now one more thing which I actually forgot to mention, two things actually. We did introduce templates for questions, right? So let's say for clients, there are certain questions that we generally ask. For example, whenever we onboard any new client, so let's say I wanted to, for every single client that I onboard, I ask, let's say, questions like, hey, send me your last income tax return, or send me your, let's say, payroll tax returns, or sales tax return, or this statement, or that statement. You can create the templates for those questions here. And then whenever you have any new client, you should be able to import questions from your template. Okay, so you should be able to import all the questions, so you don't have to ask those questions one by one, right? So that was one addition that we did. And second addition that we did is that while you are asking any question, so let's say there is a bank statement that I need from my client every first of the month. I can click on new. I can say client questions. I could say, please, let's say, I could say, please provide me below statements for statements, for example, right? And then you can type in whatever BOH, and then you can set the recurrence. So what I could do, I could say every month on first of the month, and then there's few options here, and you can save it. So you don't have to remember to ask these questions, or add these questions to client portal every month. You just have to do it once, and then every month these questions will automatically be published on client portal, right? So that's a questions recurrence that we have also introduced, right? So that's that. By the way, on client's portal side, one more thing that they could do was the theme changes. So you click on, a client can click on the name, click on themes. They can change the color, whatever they like, and they should be able to change it as well. Okay. Very soon, that feature is also coming to accountants and as well. So you will also be able to choose what color, like Some of you might not like this purple color, or I mean, you can then choose whatever colors that you like. So that's also coming up for you guys. All right, I'm just gonna quickly look at my list just to make sure I'm not missing out. All right, that is this is it, guys. I think I just finished my list. I'm just gonna quickly look at the chat and just want to see if there are any unanswered questions. Then I can address it. Okay. Oh, yes, Marlon template questions. Yes, I think Ritvik has already answered. Yes, Marlon, I can. I mean, we in fact, just as you know, Marlon, we are actually re-recording a lot of stuff now because a lot of things have changed also. So yes, we will have the resource where we will be having steps as to how things to be done. Any other questions, guys? uh, i I have also uh, allowed mics for everyone, so if anyone wanted to unmute themselves and ask any questions, feel free to do that as well. So you guys can also do that as well. We are just as you know, quickly just talking about some of the roadmap items. We are actually working on mobile app for clients. So initially we will be introducing mobile app for clients, and then eventually a mobile app will also be available on accountant side. Obviously not everything will be available. I mean, some of the things need to be done on web, but yes, certain features will be available on mobile as well for accountant as well. And the second major thing that we are working on is interactive reporting, where see right now, on if we think from the client perspective, clients can only answers questions, right? They cannot look at the reports, they cannot do anything with that, right? So we are working on interactive financials where, like, you could publish the financials reports like profit and loss, balance sheet, aging, cash flow. I mean, you can literally build whatever you like. You can publish it to your client, and then your clients can drill down, look at the details, can ask you questions right there. So instead of sending PDF, the problem with PDF is that first of all, they cannot drill down. If they need any details, they always have to come back to you and ask that, hey, why is this high, and things like that. And then the whole email trail starts. So with this interactive financials, they will have details. They can drill down to account, look at the details and everything by themselves. And if they wanted to ask questions, they can also ask right there and then, right? So that way, that kind of the whole communication, especially with the financials reports, will be quite smoother. Yes, Pamela. Yes, client can upload attachment for missing items. So we have a custom review points where you can actually pull up the transactions that are missing the attachment, and you can ask questions on those transactions that, hey, please send me receipt for them. And then when they attach receipt to those transactions, those receipts get automatically attached to QuickBooks, right? There is no need for you to download and then upload it. It just get attached to that transactions automatically. So that's pretty much it, guys, from my end. Not sure if there is anything else that you want me to cover. By the way, guys, we are actually um, coming up with the same year-end close webinar series. I think next week, somewhere in February. I don't remember the exact date. You guys will be. I'm pretty sure you guys would have received an email wherein we will be talking about the best practices for year-end close. So you guys can invite your staff to attend that. I'm pretty sure you guys gonna find it very helpful. So when we share this recording, we will also have that registration link as well in that email. So looks like we are all good for today. Um, doesn't seem like any questions. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out to our support team, and we'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much, guys for joining in. I hope you guys found it helpful. And yeah, just let us know if there is any wish list, any features that you would like to see. We are always on top of it. So that's pretty much it for this month's refresher training. And see you guys next month. Thanks and take care. Bye bye.